So Kevin Holland is out of his fight with Jack Hermansson next weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 16, and I thought, you know what, I don't know how much more I can take. I'm okay with this not happening because I know they're going to find a replacement opponent, and we're going to talk about that in this video, but it was just a little bit too much. 2 days in a row, 2 main events. At this rate, the December 19th card, which is better than most pay-per-views ever, is going to end up with a main event of Belal Muhammad versus Diego Lima for all I know. But still, hopefully we can keep together the rest of the fighters on these cards at the end of the year, and hopefully 2 main events falling out within 2 days is enough juju and black magic to save the fate of the end of the year cards on December 19th and UFC 256, because it can't be more than 2 main events in 2 days, and there's no way we're going to lose 4 main events in a row. That would be a disaster. But Blaydes falls out against Lewis yesterday, and I was really crushed, and I was on the floor and I was bleeding out with a knife in my stomach. That's what that did to me. It made me feel really bad. I woke up in the morning, found out the news, and I was crushed. I was sunk because this card is now headlined by Anthony Smith and Devin Clark, and again, I love those fighters, but it doesn't really get the juices flowing for a main event. In a main event of a fight night, I like to be like, and now everything is on the line. The only thing that's on the line in this main event is Anthony Smith's career, in all honesty, which I guess is actually something pretty good to be on the line. So I'm okay with this weekend's main event, but I was only okay with this weekend's main event because I knew that we'd still have Holland versus Hermansson. But now we don't have Holland versus Hermansson, so they've seen me bleeding out on the ground after seeing that Blaydes is out against Lewis, and now they've just come along, ESPN MMA, spat on my corpse, and said, while you're dying, Kevin Holland's not fighting Jack Hermansson either. So I was just crushed. I'm really in a bad fit right now. I'm in a really bad mood about these 2 fights falling out, but hopefully, as I said, this means that the rest of the fights towards the end of the year are going to stay intact, but we do have some good news. I'm going to figure out a way to fix everything here. Okay, so stay tuned. Marvin Vettori, the man himself, the Italian dream, has stuck his hand up and said, I will take on the main events fighter in Jack Hermansson next weekend, which I believe is actually more of a justifiable fight in the first place than the fight that Kevin Holland was given against Jack Hermansson, because Marvin Vettori is ranked, Kevin Holland isn't. Marvin Vettori's on a win streak against better opponents than Kevin Holland is. Kevin Holland's had a lot of short notice replacements. Charlie Ontiveros doesn't really tell me that you're ready for the top 5 of the middleweight division. I'll just be honest with you, especially the way that he did it as well. Wasn't exactly like he got another walk-off KO and made him look a fool. Ontiveros got injured, but it was from a slam, so I understand. But I like the fact that Marvin Vettori, who has kind of been giving a bad card against Jacare Souza, because the UFC gave him Jacare Souza. Souza's not ranked at middleweight, so this kind of does nothing for Vettori other than build his name value. He's now stepping in against Hermansson. I think he earned it more than Holland did in the first place, so I think this is a better main event, in my opinion. Even though everyone's high on Kevin Holland right now, I think rankings-wise and importance-wise, Vettori versus Hermansson is more interesting to me as a main event, so I'm okay with it. But now you have the question of this. Does Vettori actually step up and take on Jack Hermansson? I hope he does. I really do hope he does, because I think that would be a great opportunity for him to jump right up those rankings. I reckon Jack Hermansson would most likely beat him, because Jack Hermansson right now is in the best position of all. He's had a full camp for 5 rounds, and he's getting all these short notice guys chucked in against him. He just has to go out there and perform, and he gets the job done, stays active while the rest of the middleweights kind of sit on the sidelines other than Robert Whittaker. I mean, you've got Jared Cannonier injured, you've got Darren Till injured, you've got Paulo Costa looking for a rematch with Adesanya at some point, and now a fight with Whittaker that's not going to happen because Whittaker's earned a title shot, so Costa doesn't really know what he's going to be doing. Weidman's taking on Uriah Hall, so everyone's booked up at middleweight. I'm glad that Jack Hermansson is taking on the fight, staying on the card, because I know that Jack Hermansson values the activity that he will have compared to some of these other middleweights when we get out of this quarantine era. Marvin Vettori stepping in. We need to figure out what's for the rest of them, though. We really do. Kevin Holland needs an opponent. Jacare Souza needs an opponent. No brainer. I don't know why there's questions of this on the MMA community. It makes no sense. Everyone's like, oh, now Jacare should maybe take on Weidman, or Jacare should look to take on Rockhold in a rematch, finally. No. Kevin Holland is ready to fight. He tested positive for the Rona syndrome, and as we know, you're allowed to cave someone's head in on the canvas and leave them unconscious, but heaven forbid you sneeze on them. We can't have that in the cage, so everyone has to be pulled off the card for the Rona syndrome, even though they're not going to die from it, because we're just in this weird I don't even want to get into it because the channel could be terminated if I get into it. That's how weird of a situation we're in right now. Okay? Marvin Vettori fills in against Jack Hermansson. Kevin Holland is left out on the sidelines. Jacare Souza is left out on the sidelines. No brainer. Fill in Kevin Holland against Jacare Souza on the main card of UFC 256 in December. That makes all the sense in the world to me. Keep Kevin Holland quarantined. Test him over and over again until he no longer tests positive or has a bunch of negative tests in a row. Then fill him in to fight against Jacare Souza on December. I'd say also what you should have maybe done was slide over a fight onto that onto that Vettori versus Hermansson card, because now that one is going to need a little bit of help as well, because it's looking a little bit slimmer and slimmer as the time goes on. Who knows if Jack Hermansson is going to test positive next? It's just like, I'm waiting for people to be shot down and cards to be ruined over pointlessness, and it really is annoying me. So UFC 256, you've got some good names. You know what kind of gets overshadowed on UFC 256? Junior Dos Santos versus Cyril Gane. In my opinion, the end of the year card, Edwards versus Chimaev, is overstacked. And I know that's a problem because they still want everyone to enjoy the card, even if a couple of them do fall to the Rona syndrome. I think we can slide some of them onto the UFC 256 card and slide some people from the UFC 256 card over to the Hermansson versus Vettori card now, I hope, if everything goes well in the contract negotiations and Vettori can get paid maybe a little bit more for stepping in for a main event on short notice, because no one else is accepting it other than Marvin Vettori right now. So still, I think what we should do is this. There's going to be so many fights overshadowed on the end of the year card. I know it's stacked, but you can overstack a card. For example, when Thompson fights Jeff Neal, the hype over Thompson-Jeff Neal winner will be gone once Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev happens. As soon as the winner of Thompson versus Neal is announced, everyone's going to be happy about the winner, everyone's going to be talking about the winner, and then in the exact same division, Leon Edwards versus Khamzat Chimaev is going to steal all of the limelight. So what I would do is this. Stephen Thompson, Jeff Neal, you guys are now on the main card of UFC 256. I need someone from 256 to be taken from 256 and add to this Hermansson versus Vettori card if it all goes to plan. And I think that person should be Junior Dos Santos versus Cyril Gane. Both heavyweights, don't have to cut weight. So they don't have to really focus on anything other than just showing up right now, because the main problem with moving guys to an earlier card is maybe you'll mess up their weight cutting schedule. They might be a little bit too big and they need to taper down a little bit more, and they needed that extra week to get to their weight cut. So I'd say take Junior Dos Santos, take Cyril Gane. Cyril Gane weighs 245 pounds in his last fight. Junior Dos Santos weighed 238 pounds in his last fight. They're smaller guys. Shimmy them over to the co-main event of Hermansson versus Vettori. Bump up that card. Put Holland versus Jacare at UFC 256 on the main card, and everyone will be happy. And I'm sure we'll all get along, and every card will be good because of it. And maybe, just maybe, shimmy Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis onto the UFC 256 card as well. And if anyone else tests positive, replace Stephen Thompson versus Jeff Neal on the end of the year card with one of those other people that test positive, because the card's a little bit overstacked. And in my opinion, UFC 256 should be Edwards versus Chimaev. Just slide Figueiredo versus Perez or Figueiredo versus Moreno there on top of the card, and it's as good as a pay-per-view as UFC 256 is anyway. I'm just fingers crossed. I think we all need to pray right now that nothing more happens and no other fighters start getting a runny nose, or heaven forbid they'll be taken away from the card where they'll be trying to KO each other stiff and leave each other perceivably dead on the canvas in the ideal situation for them. Can't have them sneezing on each other though. Funny life. Funny life we're in right now in the world. Anyway, that's my opinion on the whole situation. I'm a little bit crushed, and this video wasn't even strategically built, and I didn't think about this. I wanted to let my emotions out of me because I've just seen this news now, and it's really starting to piss me off. But if Vettori steps in against Jack Hermansson, I would say that Jack Hermansson beats him. Antonio Carlos Jr. was able to beat Marvin Vettori, a similar jiu-jitsu grappler, grinder kind of guy, but Antonio Carlos Jr. was a little bit past his prime at the time, but Vettori did very well against him. So it could be the case that Vettori goes out there and just decimates Jack Hermansson, but I feel like on short notice in a main event for 5 rounds, Hermansson's going to have an advantage over any short notice replacement they find him. I'm going to go with Jack Hermansson, and if they do make Kevin Holland versus Jacare Souza, it makes more sense than Vettori versus Souza. Because Holland's just outside the rankings. Jacare is not ranked in the middleweight division, but if Holland beats him, he will become ranked in the middleweight division. If Vettori beats Jacare, it doesn't really do too much for him. But if Holland does, it does a lot for him. Jacare, I'm sure, wants to fight at the end of this year because he hasn't been too active. Holland wants to fight at the end of this year as well. He put a status out on Instagram saying that I still want to get back in there as soon as there's a fight available. I need to get paid at the end of the year, even though he's made more than some champions this year. I guarantee you Holland's probably made more than Volkanovski this year, just in terms of how many times he's showed up. I love this era. But for God's sakes, can we just get over this whole sneezing situation? You know what I mean? I don't even want to say it because it's a risky time. Fucking hell, man. It's really pissing me off. 2 main events in a row, yeah? Man. What main event is last? What main event is next? Let me know in the comment section below because this is just starting to piss me off every single day. I love Smith versus Clark and the card is going to be amazing. I guarantee you the Smith versus Clark card blows any other card out of the water. There's probably going to be a bunch of first round finishes and wars. But it's just, I need something, you know what I mean, to get me through this time of life right now. I just need something that's going to ramp up my excitement levels to the next level because I feel like everyone on that Edwards versus Chimaev card, I mean, Chaos Williams versus Mikkel Peyer could be on the main card. Putting that on the prelims, I get it's a main card, but it kind of overshadows it a bit. So let's shimmy some guys along, balance out these cards, and give us a fun weekend every weekend, rather than just hedging all your bets on the Edwards versus Chimaev card. Because guess what? If you slide someone from the Edwards versus Chimaev card to an earlier card, and they test positive then, well, then they can go back on the Edwards versus Chimaev card if they come back negative after a couple of tests. I think it's the ideal situation, but whatever, what do I know? Hopefully that's what they go for. That's exactly what I would do. So Holland versus Jacare Souza, Marvin Vettori versus Jack Hermansson. Credit to Marvin Vettori for stepping up. I really do respect it. I think he's going to lose, which is sad because I know Jack Hermansson's a beast right now. I think Jack Hermansson has the best chance out of any middleweight on the entire roster of beating Israel Adesanya just because of his awkward style that he brings to the table. I mean, Yoel Romero was a wrestler, but Yoel Romero can't take down anyone ever, so it doesn't really mean anything. Like, he's an Olympic wrestler. You don't really learn how to control people on the ground, so it doesn't mean anything. But Jack Hermansson's a real grappler, and I think if he wins against Vettori, which is a bigger fight for him, one more for a title shot, I guess. And Hermansson knows that. He knows, listen, I'm coming up to my prime. I'm just about to leave my prime, actually, at 32 years of age. I need to be going now. I need to win against this guy this next weekend. Then I need to take on another opponent, hopefully before I'm 33. And then I need to jump back in there before I'm 34 anyway for the title shot, because it's only going to start to get slower and slower in the reaction time for Hermansson, unless he's got the Teixeira genes. If you've got the Teixeira genes, Hermansson wait 8 years and come back and make a run at the title. But other than that, that's what I think they should do next. Let me know in the comments what you think they should do. I'm just crushed, man. I'm crushed. Even though I know everything's going to work out, and I always say this, it's off this card, but at least it will make the next card down the line way better. I always say that, but it's just like, but this card now. Anthony Smith is not a main event anymore, man. Devin Clark is not. He's 12-4. He's 12-4. This isn't Bellator, man. This ain't fucking Bellator. But all good. Josh Parisian versus Parker Porter is your feature fight this weekend. It's going to be an amazing card, though, so I need to stop shitting on it so much. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there, and goodbye. Toodle pip.